All right, we welcome you to the latest edition of Inside the Orange. We are pleased to be joined this afternoon by Tommy Powell, Syracuse University Assistant Provost of Student Athlete Academic Development. Tommy, it's our first chance to have a chance to speak with you. How are you today? Great to hear from you.
Thanks, guys. I'm doing well, man. Just getting the summer school off to a roaring start. We have all of our football guys who are going to be new to the program and in classes right now, so we're going through that process with them.
All right, so you were hired here at a time when the university really wanted somebody to focus strictly on academics. You've been here since 2013. So can you walk us through this position, how it was created, and what you do for the university on a daily basis?
Sure, yeah. It was really unique at the time. Like you said, back in 2013. Prior to that, I was at Iowa State University working as an associate AD in academics there as well. And just received a call sort of out of the blue, seeing if I would be interested in looking at a new position that reported outside of athletics to the provost. And I really, was intrigued by it. To make a long story short, I decided to take a visit. Herm Fraser picked me up from the airport. I had dinner with Dean Diane Murphy from the Falk College and a few other administrators on campus, and I really fell in love with the people, the place, the vision that they had, and the concern that they had to make sure that student athletes had exactly what they needed to be successful, and also a true academic line, so we can make sure that when I'm making decisions, it's based on the academic health and the academic best interest of the student athlete. We want them to be obviously incredibly successful in whatever sport they play. But at the end of the day, my job is to make sure that they come here, get a great education, hopefully walk out of here with a degree, maybe one or two degrees, and then hopefully see what they want to do and help them in that next phase of their professional life as well.
Your title obviously focuses on academics, but what are some of the ways that you and your department are able to help athletes, stay focused and stay successful in the classroom, but also, I would assume that carries over to the field of play, so to speak. And if things are going well in the classroom, that will help their performance at practice and in games and so on and so forth.
Yeah, if we could eliminate the worry of my academics and have them when it's time for practice to be able to focus on practice in the game, we do that in a couple different ways, and it's actually a really great question because we don't want kids running from class to practice, practice to class, back and forth, you name it. We really spend a lot of time from the very moment they get here building out a 4-year plan, sometimes it's a 3.5-year plan, mapping out with them what classes they need to take each semester, how those classes are offered for their particular major. If there's going to be any type of practice conflicts, can we take that class in another semester if possible? Sometimes that's not possible. But when you get the academic portion right, so that they're focused on the academics when it's time, they can get a good meal, head to practice, or practice in the morning, head to class, come back for study table. That balanced load, I think, is essential in them being successful, not only academically, but also athletically as well. We know student athletes, when they're coming out of high school, they're in a pretty regimented system there as well. We want to make sure we make that transition from high school to college as smooth as possible, giving them every opportunity to be students, and every opportunity also to be, Division I, elite athletes as well. And that becomes paramount when they first get here, mapping out a game plan. No different than Coach Babers wouldn't show up in the Dome on Saturday night without really having a game plan and working with the team for the weeks prior. We do the same thing in the classroom. We scout everything with them. We put everything out ahead of them so that they're working towards staying ahead in class so that when they do go to class, take the exam, they're prepared for that. That preparation then takes some of that stress level off and they can focus on the athletic portion of their career when it's that time to do that.
For the people on the outside looking in, something that always comes up is, how do these kids travel like they do, and how do they stay up to date when they're traveling? Like, basketball sometimes gone for a full week at a time. How do they get the classes and stay up to date with all the travel that they do?
Great question. Again, it really starts to go back to what I said at the beginning, right? If you have a plan, what the major is, the class schedules that they will be taking in the fall semester and spring semester. Basketball is a great example because they cross over two 2 semesters is really planning that out. So if there's a lab that's on Friday for, let's say, a men's soccer player, not a good lab to be taking because they're going to be missing it because of competition. So we really intervene and try to get that lab on, say, a Monday, on a day that they won't be traveling or having competition. And I think it's small things like that that really go into helping that student athlete balance that load. Now, for men's basketball, women's basketball, we do send members of my staff on the road with them, and we hold study hall in the hotels the night before the game, making sure that they're keeping up on their studies. We will actually call on other universities that we're competing against to maybe proctor an exam for us or allow us to use their center for for an exam. So we coordinate all that with the athletes and the faculty members, way ahead of actually the day of travel. We let our faculty know at the beginning of the semester when the basketball team will be traveling, in late October, November. So we're keeping, once again, all that out ahead of us so that we're helping, manage the load for the student athlete so that they can be their best both in the classroom, again, and competition.
Did the pandemic change things for you and even maybe make things easier for you with the online classes now and people being able to do it remotely?
I think it's a double-edged sword, right? So we were able to transition immediately to providing all of our academic support online. That was really, we did it really overnight, so that we converted our tutorial sessions to virtual sessions. So that was great. What that taught us is that even when students are traveling, now that the pandemic is hopefully over, we were able to provide tutoring on the road in this virtual format. So it actually helped us out a little bit in there. I will say, though, my experience has been student athletes, regardless of their academic background, do better in-person learning. Now, some of them adapted well, but I'll tell you, I think you'll see it in our admissions numbers this year, is that students all around the world are flocking back to campuses and wanting to take classes in person because it's a better learning environment. Some can do it, and it is convenient, but having that one-on-one interaction with the faculty member in the classroom is I think, paramount to their experience here as a student. And Syracuse University, being a private institution with world-class faculty, and having our students sit, hopefully in the front row or close to it, so that they can really get to know their faculty members, engage in that class, I think goes without saying, is one of the best things about Syracuse University. And so, yeah, it's probably a little bit more convenient for the student to roll out of bed, turn on the computer, but it doesn't help with the true college learning experience that I think we all sort of desire. And you're seeing that now. Everyone really liked the online for the first portion of that. Later on, it just got so burdensome and time consuming that I think our kids like being back on campus, seeing people interacting. I think it's once again part of the whole student athlete experience here, and I think we've adapted well. We're really excited to hopefully get back to some normal fall this semester with games in the dome and all those things that really kind of highlight the academic experience and the athletic experience for both students and student athletes here at Syracuse.
Tommy, how about the transition for students coming in from high school? Because being a high school athlete is much different from being a Division I athlete. Paulie brought up the travel, and it's a lot. The practice schedule, the working out. I mean, everything that goes into it. It's so much more, and it's intensified at the college level. How do you go about, helping the incoming freshmen and integrating them into the college setting while knowing, especially for like a football player, right? I mean, they're coming in before school even starts, and they've got to hit the ground running athletically, and then you throw academics on top of it. It can be a daunting task. So how do you go about trying to ease those concerns, ease that workload for the incoming freshmen?
That's great. So we have, as you mentioned, football is here right now. We have a summer bridge program that my staff is they've done a really great job, along with Mark Trumbo, is really organizing a bridge component, and that's to bridge the gap from high school to college. So great example is we had a note-taking seminar yesterday that all the new freshmen took part in. A couple of days ago, we had a scavenger hunt on campus where we set up the freshmen to find certain buildings, and they had to get pictures of themselves in the buildings, and we'll do a little collage at the end of the summer when it comes to that. So every week of this summer, leading up to fall camp for football and men and women's basketball and some some other fall sports. We have things throughout each day of the week that they're here, helping bridge that gap. We call it the Bridge Program for a reason. We're bridging that gap. And so we're going to expose them to as much of the campus life as possible so that when they start fall semester, they're going to be head and shoulders above the traditional freshmen coming in. They'll know where their classes are. They'll know people on campus. They'll know departments on campus. They'll know how to use MySlice. They'll know how to go through all the things that we think is important for a student to know. And we get a chance to sort of have a captive audience this summer to get them prepared for that.
Tommy Powell, our guest here on Inside the Orange. And, Tommy, you mentioned that you came here from Iowa State. You were at LSU before that. Now you're at Syracuse University. Can you, I guess, speak to the differences and maybe the similarities between the three universities that you've worked for? Are there different needs at a place like Syracuse versus a place like LSU, maybe based on, what the school's priorities are, the geography, the conference, are there differences? And I would assume there's probably a lot of similarities as well.
There is. So this fall, believe it or not, will be my 23rd fall in college athletics, all at the Division One level. When I started off at LSU, it's a large state school. Coach Nick Saban was the head football coach when I was there, and I got a chance to work with the football program on the academic side. And it's really kind of neat. I look back on this, didn't think of anything of it at the time, but I'm sitting in a football academic meeting. It's Coach Saban, it's Jimbo Fisher, it's Will Muschamp, Derek Dooley, all around the same table. Those guys go on to be head coaches themselves. Later on, that preparation for me was vital to see how, really, if you think about it, how coaches who won national championships conduct their teams and how they conduct their academic programs as well. And so, taking a little bit from there, leaving LSU, going to Iowa State, another really big state school, over 30-something thousand students there. Working with, at the time, Gene Chizik, who was the football coach. He left there to go to Auburn and win a national championship as well. That was really, once again, a really neat experience. Building a program from the ground up at Iowa State was something that I really wanted to do, and we were able to do that. We found great success there. Coming to Syracuse, which is a private school, a little bit smaller in scale, the challenges here are not unique to student athletes, but we do a lot more in-person, smaller classrooms. That is a lot different than the bigger state schools. They might not be taught by a PhD, for the first year or two at some of the bigger state schools. Here at Syracuse, they're in from almost day one. But with that comes, not as many class selections, not as many, ability to massage schedules, and so we've had to learn to adapt a little bit and make sure that plan is really important, so that we know this class is only offered in the spring. If we miss it here, it's going to create problems down the line. And so, just adapting to those small little, unique parts of the campus. But it's college athletics. It's college in general, and you do three things, whether you're at any of these schools that I mentioned. You go to class, you engage with your professors, and you engage in that class, and you'll be successful. I promise you that. That's what I tell student athletes when I meet with them on their recruiting trips. If you just go to class, get to know your faculty members, engage in that class, you will graduate from Syracuse University, I promise.
Has the transfer portal affected you in a way that it's affected like the coaches and stuff too? How hard is it for you to take a kid that's coming in from another school and make sure he's academically fit and ready to go?
Listen, guys, I think it's one, and I'm going on my soapbox a minute. I think while the transfer portal can help, some of our coaches get some talent in, which I think is great. I'm all for that. My burden here, especially on the academic side, is how does the person who's transferring out of here going to another institution, how does those credits apply to the degree that they want there? How many credits will they lose? What's their path to graduation? And I think that gets lost in this. I think we sometimes kids go in the portal and they're making more of an emotional decision and not really taking a hard look at how my my credits are going to transfer, whether I retain a scholarship there. I mean, you look at the data across the country. The NCAA is a bit frightening when it comes to football and men and women's basketball, the transfer portal numbers. I think what I would love to see, and we're trying to do that here at Syracuse, is really sort of counsel the students going into the portal so that they know what questions to ask, so they can make a right choice for them academically in their academic career. And as students come in, it's having those tough conversations. Hey, you're losing X amount of credit. This major that you might want here might not be available because you're not making the correct progress for NCAA rules, and you might have to choose an alternate degree. And those are tough conversations to have, and they're just a byproduct of the portal itself. And I think we need more education. I think there needs to be a window of time that kids can get in and get out. And I think they really need to be informed before they go in to know all the consequences of how that's going to affect their scholarship, number one, and then their progress toward their degree, regardless of the institution that they're headed to.
What about grad students? When they come in, are they kind of steered towards certain master's programs, or do you point them in the right direction? I mean, how do you bring in the grad students and make sure that they hit the ground running for the 1 year that they're here?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So grad students are different, right? I tell the coaches this as well. So they don't go through a normal admissions process. They go through a faculty review committee, just like I did when I went to grad school. And so, in order for a grad student to get in, they're going to get in on their own merit, based on their undergraduate credentials. And so they'll go through that process. So they've got to choose a degree. They've got to go through the process, get admitted, letters of recommendation, you name it, right? And so what we've seen is that we've had great success, students coming in and really being in a number of different graduate programs. But does the scholarship then run out a year later? And it's possible. Sometimes it's not COVID. And the COVID world is all different, right? People got, it seems like 6-7 years to finish their degree now. But what we've done here at Syracuse University, which I think is really unique, is that we had a donor give us an endowment to help student athletes who have exhausted their eligibility to finish their graduate degree, not undergraduate, but graduate degree. And so if they've only had that 1 year of competition, we want to make sure that that beyond that 1 year, we still have the means to be able to fund them to finish that master's degree. That helps the university's retention in the graduate programs, as well as me be able to sit in front of a student athlete and say, yeah, you've only got a year left, but here's a program that if you're in one of these 2 or 3 different schools, we're able to provide you with tuition assistance to get you through that master's degree. It's the first I've ever seen of it in my 20-something years of doing this. I think it's great. We've been able to help. Here's a great example. You might remember our wide receiver who was a graduate transfer football, Powell. He was a great person who came in for 1 year. He got his master's degree from here through this program. So he tried to go play pro a few years, did some other work, came back. We still funded him. He was able to get a master's degree from Syracuse University by only playing here 1 year, which I think is just an incredible story.
That's a great success story, and I'm sure you've got many other success stories you could tell us. And along those lines, Tommy, I mean, how do you measure success with what you do? I mean, are you looking at GPAs? Are you looking at all academic teams? Are you looking at graduation rates? Is it all of the above? I mean, how do you go about kind of measuring how your office is doing?
You have to track all that, right? You have to track the GPAs, you track the APR, graduation success rate, which I will add, ours is 95%, which is I think top 10 in the among Power 65 schools, which I'll just brag on that a little bit, which is really good. But I'll bring it to a real personal level. That's all great. What I tell kids on their visit too is that graduation rates for that one person is either going to be 0 or 100%, correct? And so it's really up to that individual to decide that they want a degree from Syracuse University. Chris Elmore, a great success story for us. What a wonderful person. He, because of COVID, because of injuries, he's been able to extend his career here. Chris graduated, from Syracuse University. He'll be taking, graduate classes in the fall semester. That's how I measure success. A kid like Chris, who's just a wonderful person, we wanted to make sure that we followed him through and made sure that he got his degree from Syracuse University. And he's just one example, but there's hundreds and thousands of kids over my career that maybe first generation, college students who come to a school like Syracuse University and leave here with a degree, I think is what I got into business for, and it's really what kind of keeps me going now. 23 years doing this, it never gets dull seeing a kid light up, put the cap and gown on, watch his parents and loved ones come to graduation and cheer him on. Those are the things that I think we all in my office measure success by. Numbers are great, but it's individuals and individual personal relationships with them and watching them then leave us and hopefully go on to have a great professional career, not in athletics, if they can, great, but more importantly, a professional career in whatever line of work that they want to go into.
That's well said, Tommy. And listen, this has been a whole lot of fun for us. A really important work that you and your office do. Anything that we didn't touch on that you want to get to before we let you go?
I think we're preparing. I think what gets lost in this conversation is how well the university does interacting with athletics, and that's me being on the academic side of the house, being able to see that. We've got faculty members who really invest in the student athletes in the classroom, and sometimes you forget about all that. When you mention travel, you mention taking exams on the road, all those things, we can't do that without the support from the campus. And that's a big part of our success. And that's top down. That's from our chancellor, Ken Simperud, all the way down to, the faculty member, one-on-one in the classroom. So it's a total campus effort to provide what I think is a great student athlete experience here at Syracuse.
All right, Tommy, it was a pleasure meeting with you. It was a pleasure speaking with you today. Keep up the good work. And again, we appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us.
Awesome, guys. Thanks. I appreciate you highlighting this area of the athletics.
All right, again, that is Inside the Orange. We'll do it again next Thursday. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody.